Our next presenter is Caroline. She has presented at Pichakcha before. She is on our board.
Yay.
Caroline is an activist, travel writer, and Pichakcha lover. When she's not trying to keep it clean at the State House, you can find her cycling at the beach or at Pichakcha. Here's Caroline.
So one of my favorite things about traveling is being able to tell people everything that I heart about Providence. And recently, in a year abroad in Poland, I got to talk a lot about everything that I heart about Providence because Krakow in Poland was seemingly lacking in the creative front. And that is a picture of the room that I moved into in my first few months in Poland, which is an old communist dorm. All of my Rhode Island family is Polish. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I have kind of a local, global connection to Poland and to Rhode Island. But I went abroad for a year to kind of figure out what it is that is this Polishness, and it was really, really challenging. That says Polska dla Polaków, which is Polska for the Polish. So I found myself in a place that was fairly conservative and one of the most homogenous countries on the planet. And yet this was me. And then I went to Warsaw and I said, this is really neat. We have things like fake palm trees in the middle of Warsaw, set against the backdrop of a communist building. And that is also Poland. So I found myself trying to figure out what it is, this force that is Polishness. And the force of Polishness is not unlike the force that is Rhode Islandishness, and I'm still trying to figure out that one myself. That's a picture of one of my favorite cafes in Krakow. But this whole time that I was in Poland, I was just trying to figure out thanks, Sean. These forces. But one of the things I did in Poland to help myself along was tweet. And I tweeted a lot. And I tweeted to survive the winter. I tweeted to survive the cold, it getting dark. And one of the people that I met on Twitter while in Poland was a woman named Catherine Lucy from Bristol, Rhode Island, who runs an NGO called Solar Sister. And Solar Sister works with female-centered enterprise and clean energy in Uganda. So, I'm on Twitter late at night and at 3 p.m., whenever it gets dark in Poland in the winter, which is pretty early. So I'm kind of doing that to keep myself sane and keep myself creative. But then I'm also working with visions. But then something wonderful happened. Then TEDx Warsaw happened. So I found myself, that's me deprived of months of creativity. That is me at TEDx Warsaw. So for the first time during my time in Poland, I found myself surrounded by people that were also just really excited to share new ideas, to share creative ideas. And the best talk I heard at TEDx Warsaw was a sociologist named Anna Giza. And Anna Giza, she's also a philosopher, but she rocked my world. This talk changed my life, and it totally transformed my time in Poland and thinking of myself as a Polish American and also someone that I knew was ultimately, in a relatively short time, returning to Providence. But she spoke about collective ignorance and the whole idea that if everyone's thinking the same thing, but if everyone is not sharing what they're thinking, everyone's thinking the same thing, but still just running on day by day. And this is a scene from when the Polish president died, which is a really, really divisive force in Poland because it really split the conservative and the more progressive Poles. But Anna Giza, she taught me in her talk that unless you share your ideas, no one's going to know you're thinking it, so it's going to be easy just to stay in the same old 9 to 5 and largely conservative viewpoints. And that's me playing in that's at the National Museum in Poland. And that is I guess we could call it an art installation. That is a home sweet home map that was placed in a metro tunnel in Warsaw. So again, I mean, this whole time we were just having these very conflicting thoughts of, is this progressive, and these progressive ideas are just fighting to come out. And there are people everywhere, lively people in Krakow. I mean, this could be a scene of any global city. There are pigeons, of course, but people riding bikes, people congregated, statues. Just the whole time I was here, I was trying to figure it out. But ultimately, I knew I was going to return to Providence. And the first thing I did when I returned to Providence was meet with Catherine Lucy at the RISD Beach. So I came from Providence to Krakow to meet a woman on Twitter from Bristol, Rhode Island, and then we met at the RISD Beach. The other person that I met that day at the RISD Beach at a tweet-up was Stephanie Gerson. Stephanie Gerson happens to be the godmother of Pachacacha, Providence. So, I had my world transformed in Warsaw by TEDx. And then I learned about Pachacacha, and I said, this is even better. We can have a Pachacacha every month. This is more accessible, this is more informal, and rather than happening once a year or once ever in a city, it can happen every single month. And that's just a funny photo from Krakow that I had to collect photos as I went to help keep it real. Which brings me to TEDx Providence is coming. And good ideas are going to become good ideas no matter what. And while Pachacacha is an awesome idea and will continue to happen month after month, TEDx Providence is coming and it is happening and it is April 15th. All of the information you need is at TEDxProvidence.com. It's going to be held, TEDxProvidence.com. It's going to be held at the Metcalf Auditorium at the RISD Museum. Tickets are 50% sold out. There are only 200 tickets. They are $40 per ticket, and that is only to cover the cost of what it costs to rent the RISD Auditorium. And this is actually from a book fair in Krakow. So if you're like, think about inspiring young Polish people, Bill Gates. That is what is inspiring. So again, I mean, I just collected these images the whole time I was here, just trying to make sense of these contradictions, and was ultimately pretty happy. But Providence ideas are ideas worth spreading. Roger Williams had some pretty awesome things to say, and we wouldn't be here without him. Speakers at TEDx Providence are going to have some pretty awesome things to say, and I'm proud to say that Catherine Lucy of Solar Sister, who I met while in Krakow from Bristol, Rhode Island to meet at the RISD Beach, will be one of the speakers at TEDx Providence. So,
thank you, Caroline. One thing that Caroline mentioned is, I may have failed to mention it at the beginning, we have a Pachacacha night every single month. We are the only city in nearly 500 cities, as Mark so pointed out in that video, that holds it every single month. Tokyo and Leeds have it 11 out of 12 months a year. Providence, Rhode Island is the only city in the world that has a Pachacacha night every single month, and it's all because of you coming out and supporting it. So thank you for your support of Pachacacha.